Saul, an Israelite king anointed by the prophet Samuel and appointed by God himself as the first king. He ruled over Israel for approximately 40 years. As time went on, Saul's impatience and lack of trust in God's timing became evident. One significant event that highlights Saul's impatience is the battle against the Philistines. Samuel, the prophet and judge of Israel, had instructed Saul to wait for him to offer sacrifices before going into battle. Saul, fearing the Philistine army and the wavering loyalty of his own troops, decided to take matters into his own hands and offer the sacrifices himself. By failing to wait for Samuel, Saul showed a lack of trust in God's timing and guidance. Waiting for Samuel's guidance would have allowed Saul to learn and grow in his faith. By taking matters into his own hands, Saul missed the opportunity to deepen his relationship with God and develop a stronger dependence on him. It can be tempting to take matters into our own hands and rush into decisions, but we must remember that God's plans are perfect and his timing is impeccable. Saul's impatience was an act of disobedience and rebellion against God's authority. It showed a lack of humility and submission to God's appointed prophet. God values obedience and humility in his servants, and Saul's impatience demonstrated the opposite. Let us align ourselves with God's will and avoid the pitfalls of impulsive actions. May we grow in our faith and become more steadfast in our devotion to God. The battle between the Israelites and the Amalekites took place after the Israelites had been freed from slavery in Egypt and on their way to Canaan. God commanded Saul to completely destroy the Amalekites and all their possessions as punishment for the past mistreatment of the Israelites. Instead of destroying everything, Saul spared King Agag's life for his own glory and kept some of the Amalekites' livestock. He wanted to terrify the Israelites and kings of other nations with his combatant ability. This would imply that the executive power to protect them was embedded with him. God saw a bigger picture. King Agag still had allies with other nations that hated Israel. He could influence ambush and conspiracy against Israel, jeopardizing God's agenda for his people. By sparing the king and the livestock, Saul had failed to carry out God's will fully and showed that he was more concerned with his interests than following God's commands. These disobedient and impatient actions made God unhappy with King Saul. This led to God rejecting him as king and choosing David as his replacement. The story of Saul serves as a cautionary tale for all of us, reminding us about the consequences of impatience and the importance of seeking God's guidance in our lives. There could be multiple reasons why David's kingdom was not taken away from him while Saul's kingdom was. Sometimes, if you have invested so much in and trusted someone in a relationship, it becomes unbearable if that person betrays you. David genuinely repented for his sins and sought forgiveness from God, whereas Saul did not. David had a deep and personal relationship with God and constantly sought his guidance and direction. David demonstrated better leadership skills and qualities, which made him more suitable to be a king. God might have felt humiliated by Saul's disobedience, so he wanted to set a precedent for future kings. It is up to God's discretion and judgment to determine the consequences of one's actions. As followers of Christ, we are called to be humble and submissive to God's authority. Thanks for passing by. Please click the like and subscribe buttons as a way of showing appreciation for me as a content creator. The YouTube algorithm will be triggered, showing the video to more would-be viewers. By so doing, this channel will grow.